Hi everyone, I am going to talk about how I tried to conceive baby number 3. So I'm going to talk about all my cycles and how I got to know my body and things like that. Hopefully you could benefit from it. So I'll tell you what I did. When I had Noah in 2013, I was exclusively breastfeeding him, and I breastfed him for 14 months. When he was around about 20 weeks old, I'd have to look back at the videos on his updates, but I got my cycles back around about when he was about 20 weeks old, around there. Then I could just continue to feed him. I really wasn't taking any notice of when I was coming my periods. I wasn't, I really wasn't giving it a thought. There was no need to. So he got to 14, or when he got to a year, and I started to think, like, do I get rid of this baby stuff? And I started to think about a third baby. So when he was 14 months, I quit breastfeeding him, and I just kind of noted down when I'd got my period, and I wasn't really taking any more notice than that, really, just marking down each month when I got it. And then I was counting the days, and I realised like just how long they were. They would vary in length. They were like 30, they were over 30 days. Like I wasn't having like a standard 28-day period. Got to the end of was it 2015? Yeah, got to towards the end of 2015, and I hadn't been breastfeeding for around sort of like 9 months, and I still hadn't really got a proper cycle. Like, my body hadn't gotten into every 28 days, every 29 days, or every 30, or whatever. There was no real set time, like there was no real regularity to them. When I breastfed Kaysan, my first, until he was 10 months old. That was not exclusively though. I did really sort of struggle with Kaysan to feed him exclusively. But as soon as I started feeding him at 10 months old, I had 28-day periods every single month after I'd finished feeding him. But for some reason, this time around with Noah, my body just failed to find its own routine, like to find its own regularity. So I started drinking raspberry leaf tea on the days that I would have my periods. I started off drinking like 1 or 2 cups a day, mainly 1 really. Like at the beginning it was more like 1, sometimes 2. And I'd drink them for about 3 days, 4 days, like just the days that I was having my periods. And then I'd stop on the days that I no longer had my period. And then I started taking ovulation tests. And I didn't keep track of them tests. Like I didn't put them in this book until March. But I noticed just from the first month of drinking the red raspberry leaf tea, my body had a 28-day cycle that month, which was weird. And I had a 28-day cycle in the December. So like I started in the December, and then when I got my next period in the January, it was exactly 28 days. And that was again for February, and I stopped taking the red raspberry leaf tea. I thought, oh, my body's into a routine, that's fine. So in March I started to stick them in this book, March 2016. So I started on day 10, did day 10, day 12, day 14, day 15, day 16, and that was it. So I just did 5 days worth. Right, so I didn't want to completely rely on these ovulation tests. I knew that regardless when you ovulate, whether you ovulated on day 14, day 19, day 22, whenever you ovulate, doesn't matter, you will always get your period 14 days after you've ovulated. So what I did was I just wrote this down. And then what I wrote on here, on this bit, I put my cycle length was 30 days, and I got my period on the 31st day, because that would make 14 days after, and on the 15th day is basically day 1 of your new cycle. I think a lot of people think that day 1 should be day 14 after you've ovulated. It's not, it's day 15. That's day 1 of a new cycle. So what I did was I counted back, and it turned out that I ovulated on day 15, maybe 16, I think overnight. That's when I think I possibly ovulated. A lot of the time I get ovulation pains, and I think if I remember back, that might be why I'd put a slash there, 15, 16. So I think it was late. I think it was like overnight somewhere then. So April come, I started on day 10, and I tested all the way through to day 16, and I believe I ovulated on day 16. Then May was a really good month, so I'll show you May. In May I did day 11, day 12, day 14 in the morning, and then I got pains in the evening, PM, I put pains, and that's when I got my positive. Then I did day 15 in the morning, and that came up negative, it got back to negative, and I actually got my period on the 29th day. So I had a 28-day cycle, and I ovulated on day 14. So that's what I was doing. I did June, and then June was I ovulated on day 16. July I ovulated on day 15. And then August was like so once I'd like built up what, March, April, May, June, July. So I'd built up a good 5 months worth of information on my body. August was like our first month of trying. August though was the month that I used the pound shop ones, and that they were giving me the wrong days. They were giving me they told me that I'd ovulated on day they told me I'd ovulated on day 16 in the evening, but when I counted back, when I got my period, I actually ovulated the day before. They gave me, yeah, I wouldn't recommend the pound shop ones. So yeah, don't just fully rely on ovulation tests, especially if you're buying them like cheapy ones. They might just be slightly off. So yeah, I would say if you really want to if you're going to build up something like this, do a few months worth, count back 14 days, and find each month where you're ovulating 14 days from the period that you've got. So as soon as you come on your period, count back 14 days, and that's your ovulation day, and just build up. That's what I did, and it worked for me. Then September, it's a really funny month actually, September, because September was the month where I just kind of I actually wanted to skip September. And it's true, when they say like when you just stop thinking about it, it happens, and that was the case. Because September I thought, oh, September, I'm going to end up with June baby, you know, I'm going to still be doing school runs. If I leave it another month, it'll be July, and then I'll have the baby when the kids are off, and I've got to worry about school runs when I've got a newborn. And so in my head I was thinking, I'll leave September. So that was the first month that I used the Clear Blue, the first and only month I ever used the Clear Blue. And I got my positive on day 10, like my peak, not even my high, my peak. I didn't even get highs. I got empty circles on day 9 and day 8, and the only time that we were intimate was day 6. The one and only time that month. There was another time, but that wasn't until 2 days before I was expecting my period. But I was already pregnant. It was that one time. It couldn't have been the 1-2 days before my period. That would have been way too quick. And plus I wasn't ovulating then. I'd already ovulated like almost 2 weeks before. So yeah, I hope that information would help someone else. You know, I used the red raspberry leaf tea, I used ovulation tests, I counted back from my periods 14 days, and I also kept a diary really. And I would definitely say keep a log of where you are. So yeah, I hope that really helps someone, and I will speak to you next time for another video.